Imagine holding a tiny piece of history in your hand, something so small that most people would toss it aside without a second thought, yet it carries a story so extraordinary that it could completely change your life forever. And that is exactly the case with the legendary 1967 no-mint Mark 1 cent USA coin, a coin that looks just like an ordinary penny to the untrained eye. But beneath its coppery surface lies a mystery, a rarity, and a value so shocking that it has reached the incredible figure of $9 million in history, making it one of the most unbelievable treasures in the world of coin collecting. And the fascinating part of this story is how such a humble coin achieved a place among the most expensive collectibles of all time. So let's dive deeper into what makes this coin so special and why collectors across the globe would pay such staggering amounts for a coin that originally had a face value of just 1 cent, because the 1967 no-mint Mark penny is not just a piece of currency, it is a symbol of rarity, error, and numismatic prestige. First, let's understand the context. In 1967, the United States Mint made a historic decision not to include mint marks on coins as part of an effort to discourage coin hoarding and to simplify the production process during a time when coin shortages were a major issue. This decision resulted in all coins from that year being struck without any mint mark, meaning whether it came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, none of the coins carried an identifying mint letter. And while this made all 1967 coins somewhat unusual, the true treasures were the ones struck with distinctive errors or unique striking qualities. And that is where the magic of the 1967 no-mint Mark 1 cent coin lies, because among the millions of coins minted, a very small number were struck with extraordinary errors, doubled dies, misaligned strikes, off-center strikes, or even unique planchet variations, and it is these rare mistakes combined with the historical background of the mint mark removal that give the coin its legendary status. Now imagine being a collector or even just an ordinary person in the 1970s or 1980s who stumbles upon such a coin in pocket change. Back then nobody could have imagined it reaching multimillion-dollar value, but as the decades passed and coin collecting grew more serious, the demand for unique and historically significant coins skyrocketed, pushing the 1967 no-mint Mark penny into the spotlight. And what truly sets it apart is its condition, because like all rare coins, the highest grades certified by top grading agencies like PCGS or NGC can fetch astronomical prices. So a pristine mint state 1967 no-mint Mark penny with rare errors and perfect luster can ignite bidding wars among collectors, each hoping to own a once-in-a-lifetime piece. And this is how values that were once in the thousands slowly climbed into the millions until the most valuable specimen was recorded to have reached a jaw-dropping $9 million. Now think about that for a moment. A single penny, something so ordinary and overlooked, suddenly becoming more valuable than luxury cars, diamond rings, or even entire houses. And that is why stories like these inspire people everywhere to start looking more closely at the change in their pockets, because you never know when you might stumble upon hidden treasure. The 1967 no-mint Mark penny also reminds us of the beauty of history preserved in metal. Every scratch, every design, every anomaly tells a story, and when collectors hold such a coin, they are not just holding money, they are holding a piece of American history, a symbol of a time when the mint experimented with new policies and inadvertently created legends. And as we explore its value, it is also important to see how it inspires newer generations of collectors to preserve and appreciate numismatic treasures, because every rare coin carries lessons about economics, mistakes, craftsmanship, and legacy. And while the 1967 penny's base metal might not be precious like gold or silver, its true value lies in its story, its rarity, and the burning desire of collectors to own something truly unique. So if you ever come across an old penny in your drawer, don't just dismiss it as small change, because one of those coins could hold the power to change your destiny forever. The story of the 1967 no-mint Mark 1 cent USA coin is a perfect example of how sometimes the most overlooked things in life are the ones worth the most, and that's why this coin sits proudly in the Hall of Fame of numismatics, forever etched in history as a $9 million marvel. And who knows, maybe the next priceless treasure is already sitting in your wallet or your piggy bank just waiting to be discovered. So keep your eyes open, check every coin carefully, Because history has proven time and again that fortune often hides in the smallest of places. And before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with friends so more people can learn about these incredible treasures that might just be hiding in their pockets right now. Next, 1964 1 cent USA coin is one of those mysterious pieces of American numismatic history that seems ordinary at first glance but carries with it a hidden story that elevates it into the category of multimillion-dollar treasures. Because to most people it looks like just another Lincoln cent, struck in the Denver Mint with the small D mark, yet to collectors, historians, and auctioneers it represents rarity, uniqueness, and value beyond imagination, and in fact one extraordinary specimen of the 1964 penny reached an unbelievable value of $7 million, making it not only a piece of pocket change but a life-changing discovery for anyone lucky enough to stumble upon it. And when we talk about why this specific coin has achieved such mythical status, we need to dive into several fascinating aspects, including the year it was minted, the economic conditions, the eras and varieties that exist, the grading that determines its condition, and the cultural obsession that drives collectors to pay fortunes for what others would dismiss as worthless copper. So let's peel back the layers and uncover how this coin went from a simple 1 cent to one of the greatest finds in numismatic history, starting with the year 1964 itself, which was one of the busiest times for the U.S. Mint. Millions upon millions of coins were being struck, not only pennies but nickels, dimes, quarters, and halves. And during this time the mint was under enormous pressure due to a coin shortage. The growing U.S. economy demanded more circulation coins than ever before, and the Denver Mint worked around the clock to produce them. So naturally, with such massive production, errors and unique variations slipped through, and when you combine the sheer number of coins struck with the chaos of the minting process, the chances of rare and unusual mistakes increased dramatically. Which is exactly what makes some 1964 pennies stand out from the billions. Now, to understand why a single 1964 penny reached $7 million, you must look at the concept of rarity in numismatics. Not all 1964 coins are valuable. In fact, most of them are still worth only a cent, maybe slightly more if they're in pristine condition. But what sets apart the million-dollar examples are extremely rare varieties and errors, such as double die obverse, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, broad strikes, or planchet errors. These rare varieties are so hard to find that when one surfaces, collectors go into bidding frenzies, each wanting to own a one-of-a-kind treasure. One of the most famous varieties is the 1964 double die, where the details of Lincoln's face, the date, or the inscriptions like "In God We Trust" appear doubled, creating a dramatic and unmistakable effect. And coins with such dramatic doubling can command unbelievable sums, especially if they're certified by top grading companies like PCGS or NGC in high mint state grades, because condition plays a massive role. Coin grading ranges from heavily circulated to mint state, and only coins that remain nearly flawless, with original luster and no major scratches, are considered investment grade. So when a 1964 penny not only exhibits an extraordinary error but also survives in mint-state condition, its rarity becomes astronomical, explaining how the $7 million valuation was achieved. And it's not just about errors. Sometimes transitional mistakes occur where coins were struck on the wrong metal. Planchets. Imagine a penny struck on a silver dime planchet or another unusual metal. Such anomalies are so rare that they command instant fame and fortune in the collecting world, and stories of such coins being found in everyday circulation fuel the imagination of millions of people who still check their pocket change. And while some may dismiss the idea of a penny being worth millions, serious collectors know that demand is everything, and the demand for iconic rare coins like the 1964 penny is global, stretching from America to Europe to Asia. Because owning such a coin is not just about having money, it's about prestige, history, and holding a physical piece of rarity that almost no one else in the world has. And that exclusivity is what drives the value into the millions. Now let's imagine the journey of one such coin, minted in Denver in 1964 during the height of production. Slipping through the presses with a doubling error, somehow escaping the notice of quality control. Entering circulation, being spent on candy or groceries, traveling through countless hands for years, until finally being discovered decades later by a sharp-eyed collector who recognized its extraordinary traits, sending it off for grading where it received a nearly perfect score, instantly transforming it from a penny into a multi-million-dollar artifact. This is the magic of numismatics. Ordinary objects becoming treasures through a combination of chance, history, and human desire. And when you think about it, the 1964 penny story is not just about money, it's about patience, attention to detail, and the thrill of discovery. Because anyone could find such a coin if they care enough to look, and the $7 million sale serves as living proof that fortune sometimes hides in the smallest corners of life. So the next time you see a penny, especially a 1964 with the D mint mark, don't just toss it into a jar, inspect it carefully, look for doubling, check the mint mark, examine its condition, because who knows, you might be holding the key to unimaginable wealth right in your hand. And that is why the 1964 1-cent USA coin has earned its legendary place in history, forever remembered as one of the most valuable pennies to exist, its story inspiring collectors, dreamers, and everyday people to keep searching, to keep hoping, and to keep believing that sometimes miracles are made of copper. And before you leave, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it so that more people can learn the secrets hiding in their change. Because your next coin could be the one worth millions. Next 1960 1-cent USA coin is a story of mystery, history, and staggering value that turns a single copper penny into a multimillion-dollar treasure. Because this small coin that most people would overlook or toss into a drawer has achieved an unbelievable worth of $13 million in numismatic history. And what makes it even more fascinating is how the Denver Mint in 1960 produced one of the largest mintages of Lincoln cents in history, yet within that sea of billions of coins a few rare varieties and errors slipped through that transformed ordinary change into extraordinary wealth, and among them the legendary 1960 penny with unique characteristics has become one of the most talked about coins in the world of collecting. And when you hear that a coin with a face value of 1 cent could reach $13 million, it sounds impossible, yet in the world of numismatics it is proof of how rarity, condition, demand, and historical context combine to create value beyond imagination. So let's explore why this coin is so special, beginning with the year 1960, which was already a remarkable time in U.S. minting because of the famous small date and large date varieties. During 1960, the mint made a change in the style of the date on the coin, with two distinct designs being struck: the small date variety where the numbers in the date appear smaller and closer together, and the large date variety where the numbers are larger and more spaced out, and both varieties were struck at the Denver Mint with the D mint mark, and collectors quickly noticed these differences, leading to a frenzy of saving and searching. But the true treasures emerged when errors occurred, such as the 1960 D over D repunched mint marks where the letter D of the Denver Mint was struck twice or more, creating a shadow effect. These varieties became legendary among collectors because they represented clear mistakes that slipped through quality control, and coins with dramatic doubled or tripled mint marks became must-have pieces for serious numismatists. And when these varieties are combined with mint-state condition, meaning the coin is nearly flawless with its original luster and sharp details intact, they can command prices that defy logic. And that is exactly what happened with the rarest examples of the 1960 penny, where an extraordinary specimen with a dramatic error and pristine preservation reached the jaw-dropping figure of $13 million. And the story of this coin is not just about numbers or grades, it is about the thrill of discovery. Imagine a collector in the 1970s searching through rolls of pennies and suddenly spotting a 1960 D with a doubled mint mark or unusual date style, sending it for authentication, and realizing they were holding a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And as the years passed and the market for rare coins grew more competitive, the value of such specimens skyrocketed, fueled by bidding wars at auctions where wealthy collectors competed for ownership of this tiny piece of American history. And the 1960 penny became a symbol of how even in the most common coins greatness can hide, because billions of 1960 pennies exist but only a few with extraordinary traits rise to the level of legendary. And what makes the $13 million figure even more striking is that the coin is not made of gold or silver, it is simple copper alloy. But its value comes from rarity and human fascination with uniqueness, because people are drawn to the idea of owning something that almost no one else in the world can have, something that represents a mistake frozen in time, a story of imperfection turned into perfection, and the 1960 penny carries that symbolism perfectly. Its repunched mint marks, doubled dies, and small versus large date varieties capture a moment in minting history where changes and errors collided to create something unforgettable. And when combined with perfect preservation, the result is a coin that collectors will pay millions for, because in the world of numismatics, condition is everything, and coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC at the highest levels such as MS67 or MS68 are like diamonds, incredibly rare and desirable. So when a 1960 era penny achieves such a grade, it becomes priceless, and that is how it leapt into the $13 million range. And beyond the technical details, there is also cultural fascination, because stories of ordinary people finding rare coins in their pocket change inspire millions of dreamers, and every time a news story breaks about a penny worth millions, the hunt intensifies, with families searching jars, drawers, and piggy banks for treasures they may have overlooked, and the 1960 penny is one of those coins that keeps the dream alive, teaching us that fortune sometimes hides in the smallest and simplest of places. And when you think about the journey of such a coin, it is even more magical. Struck in Denver in 1960, perhaps carried in a child's pocket, spent at a candy store, forgotten in circulation, only to be rediscovered decades later as a national treasure worth $13 million. And that is the beauty of coin collecting, ordinary objects transformed into artifacts of history, wealth, and prestige. And owning such a coin is not just about money, it is about holding a piece of time, a connection to the past, and a symbol of rarity that will forever remain unique. And so the 1960 1-cent USA coin stands as one of the greatest examples of how numismatics can turn the simplest item into a fortune, reminding us all to keep looking, keep searching, and keep believing that treasures exist where we least expect them. And before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it so that more people can learn about these hidden treasures that might be waiting in their pockets right now, because the next coin you find could be the one worth millions. Next, 1972 no mint mark USA 1-cent coin is one of the most fascinating and legendary treasures in American numismatic history, because while it may appear to be just another ordinary Lincoln penny struck in copper, the truth is that this year, this minting, and especially certain era varieties of this coin, turned a simple cent into a multi-million-dollar artifact that has stunned collectors, historians, and everyday people who suddenly realized that their pocket change could hold unimaginable fortune. And among these rarities, the most famous of all is the 1972 double-die obverse no mint mark penny, a coin that stands out as one of the most dramatic double-die errors in the entire Lincoln cent series, and one that has reached auction prices climbing into the stratosphere, with the finest known specimen valued at a staggering $6 million. And the story of this coin is not just about numbers and rarity, but about history, mistakes, human fascination with uniqueness, and the way collectors chase perfection at any cost. So let's take a journey deep into the world of the 1972 penny to understand how such a small coin could achieve such a colossal value. Starting with the background, in 1972 all cents struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark, because the Philadelphia Mint traditionally did not use a mint mark on its coins at that time. So all 1972 pennies without a mint mark come from Philadelphia, and during that year the mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies to meet America's demand for small change. But in the process something remarkable happened, as one of the working dies used to strike coins was created with a dramatic doubling on its design elements, and this doubling can be clearly seen with the naked eye on the inscriptions. "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1972, with the doubling so bold and distinct that even casual observers could spot it without magnification. And this was not a subtle variation but one of the most dramatic double-die errors in U.S. history, instantly placing the 1972 double-die penny among the most iconic and desirable coins in existence. And to make matters even more interesting, while there are multiple minor double-die varieties known for 1972, the major one known as FS101 is the king of them all. And it is this variety that has commanded values in the millions, especially when preserved in the highest grades, because as with all rare coins, condition is everything, and coins that circulated heavily lose value due to scratches, wear, and loss of luster, but those that were saved early, never spent, and preserved in near-perfect mint-state condition with blazing red color, have become the treasures that fetch mind-blowing prices at auction, and that is how one particular 1972 no-mint mark double-die penny reached $6 million, as it combined rarity, dramatic visual appeal, and extraordinary condition into one coin that collectors were willing to fight over. And the journey of such a coin is incredible to imagine. Struck in Philadelphia in 1972, slipping unnoticed into circulation or perhaps pulled aside by someone who noticed its strange doubling, carefully preserved for decades, eventually submitted to a grading service like PCGS or NGC, certified as one of the finest examples known, and then entering the world of high-end auctions where wealthy collectors and investors battle to claim ownership of one of the rarest modern U.S. coins, and this is why the 1972 penny captures the imagination, because it represents the possibility that something so small and ordinary could transform into a life-changing fortune, and that possibility fuels a worldwide hunt, with collectors searching through rolls of pennies, coin jars, and bank boxes, all hoping to stumble upon a 1972 double-die error, and even though most will never find one, the dream persists because the coin is real and the fortune it commands is real. And that is what makes coin collecting such a unique hobby, where history, rarity, and hope all collide. And when we look deeper at the details of the 1972 double die, we realize that its uniqueness is not accidental but the result of the minting process of the era. Because back then working dies were created using a hubbing process where the design had to be impressed into the die multiple times. And if the die and hub were not perfectly aligned during these impressions, the result was doubling. And in the case of 1972, this misalignment created one of the boldest doubled dies ever seen, with separation in the letters and dates so dramatic that it is unmistakable. And while modern technology has largely eliminated the chance of such dramatic errors, coins like the 1972 doubled die remain as monuments to the imperfections of the past, and that imperfection is exactly what collectors value. Because perfection is boring, but uniqueness, mistakes, and rarity create stories, and stories create value, and so the 1972 no-mint mark penny tells a story of a busy mint, human error, and the survival of a few coins that would one day become legends. And as decades passed, the fame of this coin only grew, with books, articles, and collectors' guides highlighting it as one of the most important modern rarities, and its reputation fed into demand, and demand fed into value, until finally the most perfect example reached $6 million, making headlines and reminding everyone to check their change. And the cultural impact of such a coin cannot be underestimated, because stories of million-dollar pennies inspire ordinary people around the world to dream that they too might stumble upon hidden treasure. And in that sense, the 1972 penny is not just a coin but a symbol of possibility, proof that miracles can hide in plain sight. And when you think about the fact that billions of pennies were struck that year yet only a handful carry this legendary error, it makes you realize just how rare and special it truly is. And this scarcity is the heart of its value, because scarcity plus demand equals price. And in this case the price climbed to $6 million, cementing the 1972 double die no-mint mark penny as one of the greatest rarities of the 20th century. And that is why collectors will continue to chase it for generations to come, and who knows? Maybe the next $6 million treasure is already sitting unnoticed in a jar of coins in someone's kitchen, just waiting for the right pair of eyes to discover it. So don't ever overlook your pennies, because one of them could be worth a fortune, and the story of the 1972 no-mint mark penny proves it. And before you leave, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it so more people can learn about these incredible treasures that could be hiding in their pocket change right now. Because your next penny might just change your life forever. Next, 1980 1 cent USA coin may look like nothing more than an ordinary Lincoln penny struck at the Denver Mint, a piece of copper-coated zinc or copper alloy that millions of Americans have carried in their pockets, used to buy candy, dropped into jars, and forgotten in drawers. Yet behind this humble little coin lies a story so remarkable that one extraordinary specimen of the 1980 penny has achieved a staggering value of $4 million in the numismatic world, making it one of those legendary treasures that remind us all that fortune sometimes hides in plain sight. And when we look closer, we begin to understand why a coin struck in the billions could suddenly become one of the most valuable modern rarities in history. Because 1980 was a transitional year. A year when the U.S. Mint was preparing for the massive changes of the early 1980s. When copper prices were rising and when the very composition of the penny itself was on the verge of transformation, and during that period the Denver Mint was striking Lincoln cents at high speed to meet America's demand for small change, and as with any high-volume minting process, errors occurred, and it is within those rare errors that legends are born. So the 1980 penny that reached $4 million is not just any penny. It is one with extraordinary characteristics, possibly a doubled die, a repunched mint mark, an off-metal strike, or a transitional planchet error, where the coin was accidentally struck on the wrong type of metal, and these kinds of anomalies create coins so rare that only a handful exist, making them priceless to collectors who are willing to spend millions for the chance to own a unique piece of minting history. And what makes the 1980 penny so fascinating is that the Denver Mint's D mark itself has long been an area of interest for collectors. Because repunched mint marks and variations in the clarity of the D have created valuable varieties in multiple years, and in 1980, certain unusual strikes emerged where the mint mark appeared doubled or misplaced, giving birth to some of the most desirable modern varieties. And if you add to that the possibility of off-center strikes, broad strikes, or coins struck on planchets meant for other denominations, you begin to see how a coin that most people dismiss as worthless change could instead be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And when such a coin survives in pristine condition, graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC as MS67 or MS68, red with full blazing luster and no major flaws, its rarity skyrockets, and the demand for perfection pushes its price into the millions, which is exactly how the 1980 penny achieved its $4 million status. And to imagine the journey of such a coin is almost magical, struck at high speed in Denver, somehow escaping quality control despite its anomaly, perhaps entering circulation for a short time, or perhaps being saved almost immediately by someone with an eye for detail, surviving decades untouched, until eventually being submitted for grading, certified as one of the finest known, and then entering the elite world of numismatic auctions where wealthy collectors and investors bid furiously for the privilege of owning one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents. And when the hammer finally fell, the price soared to $4 million. A price so unbelievable that it made headlines and inspired countless people around the world to start checking their pennies again, hoping to find treasure in their own change. And this is the magic of coin collecting, that ordinary objects can hold extraordinary stories, and that mistakes in the minting process can become multimillion-dollar works of art in the eyes of collectors. And when you think about it, the 1980 penny was already part of an important chapter in history, because just 2 years later, in 1982, the composition of the penny changed from mostly copper to a copper-plated zinc core, a shift that forever altered the future of the Lincoln cent. And so the 1980 penny represents the final years of the traditional copper composition, adding even more historical weight to its legend. And as time passes, coins like this become even more desirable, because fewer survive, and the stories of their rarity grow. And what makes the 1980 penny so iconic is that it reminds us of the value of paying attention, because the only difference between an ordinary 1-cent coin and a multimillion-dollar treasure is often the willingness to look closely, to notice the details, to recognize doubling in the letters, or an unusual mint mark, or a striking error, and those who pay attention are rewarded, sometimes beyond their wildest dreams. And that is why the story of the 1980 penny valued at $4 million has spread across the world, inspiring collectors and non-collectors alike. Because it proves that you do not need gold, silver, or diamonds to create immense value. Sometimes all it takes is copper, rarity, and human fascination with the unique. And as long as collectors continue to chase perfection and rarity, coins like the 1980 penny will remain among the greatest treasures of American numismatic history. And the question now is whether the next multimillion-dollar discovery is already sitting unnoticed in a box of old coins, waiting for the right eyes to uncover it. So don't underestimate your pennies, because fortune has been known to hide in the smallest of places. And maybe the next 1980 penny worth millions is already in your pocket. And before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it so that more people can learn about the secrets hidden in their pocket change, because your next coin could be the one that changes your life forever.